Hey guys, it's me Sam here today, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about the Beauty Bay Midnight palette. I did purchase the 16 pan and the 42 pan palettes, so we will be talking about the comparisons between the Book of Magic, these palettes, and swatching a little bit, the comparisons. I will show you 3 looks with this palette. This is the last look that I created with the palette. I created one look with the purples, one with the blues, and then this one trying to kind of steer away from either one and stick with something a little different. And in the end, I will show you the full swatches of the palette and tell you my full review. Now, if you are new to my channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can come back and see more content with me. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and let's get started. The larger palette, the 42 pan palette, I will open it up for you guys. It retails, I think, for $25, and this is what she looks like. You have your purples on the top and your blues here on the bottom. It's a combination of mattes and shimmers. And then for the 16 pan, you get pretty much the same thing. You get mattes and shimmers, top half purple, bottom half blue. There is also a 9 pan which retails for $7. This one here, the 16 pan, retails for $11. And if that is wrong, I will correct myself in the description box below. What they're doing, again, just like in the earthy palette, if you've seen my previous video, they're trying to give you some of the same colors and themes as some of their limited edition palettes that not everybody was able to get. So I'm going to be comparing it to the Book of Magic, which I think is the most similar to it, although I do not have the Age of Opulence, which does have blues and purples in it. But this is what the Book of Magic looks like. I am going to first compare it to the 16 pan because I think this is probably what most people are going to get, because it's right there in the middle of the sweet spot. You get, you know, 8 really good purples and 8 blues. You get a nice black. It goes from light to dark, this and that. So yeah, let's compare with this one first, and then I'll look at the bigger palette and see if there's any additional shades that I want to compare it to. So looking at the 16 palette, both of them have the shade Voodoo. Those are the same shade in both palettes. The next shade that's exact in both palettes, sorry, I was just choking, is the shade Potion. Now this is from my Book of Magic palette, and this is the new one. I do feel like they're slightly different. Like the new one is more sparkly and just a tinge lighter, but it could just be because of the sparkle that they appear to be a little bit lighter. I'll swatch them out. I mean, swatched out, they look exactly the same. Now, those are the only 2 shades that I am seeing that are complete repeats from both of these palettes, but I do think that there are other shades that look very similar, and we will swatch those as well. So comparing the 2 palettes, I think, what's this, Bubbles and Jinx are a little bit similar, not exact. Actually, Jinx is a little bit more gray and this is a little bit more blue, but I do feel like that is very close to Potion. Like those 2 shades are in the same palette, these 2 here. This one is Bubbles and this one is Potion. They're very, very similar to be in the same palette. Then they're not really the same. This one here called Denim, and then Cursed from the other palette, like they're totally different shades, but you could kind of use them interchangeably, you know what I mean? All right, looking at like the purpley shades, I feel like this one right here and this one are similar. The undertone is slightly different. Like this one's slightly more purple, this one's slightly more pink. This is Enchanted and from the Book of Magic, and this one is Tranquil from the Midnight palette. Let's see. I guess the closest thing, this is Charmed that I'm swatching here from Book of Magic. The closest thing to that would be Electric, but I honestly, they're not anything alike. I don't see anything like gleam in here. They both have Hex, which is this black shade. Yeah, I'm not seeing that many similarities. That's just about it there. Let's take a look at the 42 pin palettes and see if there's any additional shades that we can compare. Now, I'm not going to hold them both up because it's very difficult to hold these two palettes both up at the same time, but I will definitely swatch some similar shades. So this shade Sorcery from the Book of Magic is in the larger 42 pan palette. Cursed, which we swatched to Denim on the 16 pan, is actually in the 42 pan palette. So there you got two more of the exact same. Elixir is in both palettes. So these are Elixir. They might look a little different just because my hand is slightly damp from cleaning them off from the other shades, but those are the same shade. And then Trick is in the Book of Magic palette. I'm trying to think of what I can compare, and I think this might be the best one. It's called Social. So they're pretty much the same. Now the shade Charmed is the one I want to look at again. Oh, this one right here, I couldn't really find a shade in the 11 pan. I want to swatch a few options in this one. So this one's Ripple, this one is Regal, this one is Jellies. So I think Jellies matches the shade from the Black Magic palette perfectly. I don't know why they're not considered the same shade because they look like the same shade to me. But if you wanted the Book of Magic palette, I don't know that this is gonna satisfy you completely because you're getting these neutrals here that are obviously not in this palette, and you're also getting some of these like greens, these couple like, these blues are more green than blue, if that makes any sense. And then you have this Moonlit, which is like a silver, a very brighter silver. There's a silver in the Midnight palette, which I'm wearing on my lid, but it's called Steel, and it is more of a steel shade. It's a little bit more gray based than white based than like this one. So I mean, you could purchase essentially Midnight and then get one of their 16 pan neutral palettes to kind of fill in the gaps, and maybe that's the idea of this. But we'll get into the 3 looks, and then at the end I'll kind of tell you my final thoughts and all of this. So yeah, let's get started. All right, so the first shade we're going to go into here is the shade Denim. I wanted to try to use the darker shade first and then try to blend out the edges with a lighter shade, just because I never do it that way and I wanted to kind of see how they blend. So we're going to go in with Denim and kind of create a halo shape for the eye. So I'm just building that up. And let me know what you guys think of this format of kind of doing a voiceover, just because it's easier for me sometimes to film with the kids in the room watching cartoons or whatever, and I can still kind of do my thing and you guys don't have to hear the chaos in the background. So when I get the shade where I want it, I decided I wanted to go into the shade Mist, which is a very light blue, and I'm just gonna try to blend out the edges. Usually I go in with the lightest shade first and then work my way to the darkest shade, but I just kind of wanted to test this method out. And I didn't find that it blended as nicely, but we're gonna go into the shade Potion now, and I'm kind of just throwing that all over the lid. guess it's not a true halo eye. I just really wanted it to be surrounded by the dark matte. And then I'm going to go back in with denim to just intensify the edges. And then lastly, I'm going to pick up the shade Sky as my inner corner. All right, so that's that look. Now we're getting into the second look, and I first go in with the shade Catch, which is like a really beautiful lavender, lilac lavender kind of shade, very light. But as you can see, the pigmentation is just really nice considering my skin tone, and I don't wear eyeshadow primer to enhance the color of my shadows. I typically wear primers that are going to give me longevity because I do have oily lids and I tend to have a lot of creasing. And wow, that's just like blended like a dream. Now we're gonna go into the shade Voodoo, and it's a little bit more of a warmer purple, and we're just gonna build that up on the outer corner. For this look, we're just gonna create kind of more a typical eye shape, you know, darker outer corner, shimmer on the lid. And I'm just trying to really get that shadow in my crease since I barely have one. Now I'm taking the shade Electric, and I'm going to put that on the center of the lid, but a little bit more towards the outer corner. And then we're going to take the Voodoo shade and kind of just marry the two. I believe I added a little bit of Hex there, just to deepen it a little more. And then I took the shade Gleam and put that on the inner part of my lid, and I'm going to use that as well on my inner corner. And I decided I really like that sparkle, so I just kind of went crazy and really built it up and applied it all over that part of the lid there. It just was so sparkly and pretty. All right, so now I'm gonna clean up the face, apply the rest of my makeup, and show you guys the look. Here's the blue side. And then here is the purple side. All right, for the last look, I want to do something not necessarily blue or purple because I want to see like if this 42 pan palette is worth it to have some kind of range. And so what I've decided is that I'm going to use the shade Hex, the shade Steel, and then although this is a blue kind of gray color, we're going to use Foam and see if we can create a look with those. So the first shade I'm going to go in with is Foam. And let's zoom in actually. And it's still blue, but it's the least blue I think in the palette, so we're just gonna go over that. in the like right above the crease kind of space. It is pretty powdery. And I'm not adding anything extra on the brush. I'm just gonna like buff the edges before I add any more. That's pretty good for me. Okay, with a smaller fluffy brush, I'm actually gonna go into Hex, and I'm a little bit nervous. Tap it off and go into the outer portion of the lid with that, and I'm kind of gonna right away drag it out a little. And the black is so nice. Like, I haven't added any more product and it's just spreading out nicely. And I don't care if this is a little messy here because I can clean that up with a wipe. And I'm just gonna apply a little more and build it up to what I would like the intensity to be. But just working slowly because I don't want it to get out of hand. I don't know if you see, like, when I take the brush, I kind of lift the lid like that, and it's because, I don't know if you can even tell really, but my lid is kind of hooded over my lash line. And so sometimes what happens when I close my eyes and I have a surprise look or whatever that expands the lid, you will see the space between my lash line and the rest of my lid that's not quite visible all the time. So I like to make sure I really get in there with the pigment. So now we're gonna take Steel and put that on the lid. I think that looks really nice, and there's not really another shade that I could go in the inner corner with that I feel like that is lighter, so I'm just gonna go in with Foam and do a matte inner corner. Because there's not really a light sparkly shade. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So we're gonna make the other side match, put on some mascara, and then we will talk about the palette. So here are the swatches from the 16 pan palette, and then I will show you guys the swatches of the remaining shades that are in the 42 pan palette, and here they are. So if you combine the two, that's pretty much all the swatches from the 42 pan palette. All right, you've seen the 3 looks, and here are my thoughts. If you have the Book of Magic palette, you obviously don't need the Midnight palette whatsoever. If you don't have the Midnight palette and you're still interested in the blues and purples from this palette, then I would recommend you getting the Midnight palette because I feel like the quality is there and Beauty Bay hasn't steered in any weird direction with this. they look absolutely beautiful. The quality is consistent with what they've always produced. So with that being said, I always feel like 16 pan is a really good value. You're getting lots of variety, but you're not getting too much. I do think that the 42 pan palettes are just a little bit in excess, but again, if you're a person who likes to create many different looks and you're really particular about undertones, then the 42 pan is probably for you. Or if you're somebody that doesn't like to have many palettes, you rather have fewer larger palettes, then that might be a really great option for you as well. I am not disappointed by these palettes whatsoever. I think I created 3 very different looks, and I was quite happy to have all of them. And I was actually considering, after playing with these palettes, thinking like, maybe I should pick up like the neutral palettes. Since I'm such a fan of their formula, I should pick up the other palettes and then depot all the larger ones anyway, and that way I can have singles of everything and kind of create my own palettes. I don't know if that's a thing. Let me know if you guys would be interested in seeing me do something like that, because I'm not sure. I haven't quite decided what I want to do yet on that, but it is a thought that is crossing my mind back and forth. So yeah, I am quite happy. I hope that these 3 looks inspired you to do something a little different. I know for this look in particular, I've been lusting after the new Kaleidos little quads, and I was like, let's do something to talk myself out of it with something I already have, and I felt like this did satisfy that. I don't need to get the quad because you can kind of create this look with any shadows that you probably already have in your collection. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so very much. I really do appreciate from the heart you spending your time hanging out with me. And until next time, see you guys later.